Bradford Ferguson, he was in the neighborhood of a zoom camera. And so here he is in his regular spot. Bradford Ferguson, how are you anyway? Are you having a good week?
I am. I just had a cold plunge today, so I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
A cold plunge.
Cold plunge.
Oh my gosh, have you been listening to too much Rogan?
Yeah.
So is this a new sport for you, or have you done this before?
I did it for a while about a year ago and getting back to it definitely helps with it gives a burst of energy for the afternoon like you do it around lunchtime. I don't need that afternoon cup of coffee
Ah,
and
ah.
it's good at reducing stress and some other benefits.
It would
Yeah,
it would it would give me stress thinking about doing it before I did it.
it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough getting in, but
I,
not too bad while you're in.
I once saw my dad, who actually had much higher pain tolerance than I did, but we lived in a subdivision with a pool when I was growing up, and one day the water was very cold in the pool, and he dived off the side, and people who saw it claimed that his body actually never touched the water when he got out the other side. It's
He got out pretty fast,
he
huh?
got out so fast. So there was claims that his body didn't touch the water at all. All right, listen. You and your partner have been very actively putting up some videos recently, and they stimulated some thoughts in my mind about the coming year.
Hmm.
So first of all, I'd love to talk about quarter one. And has your think we talked a little bit about it last week. Has your thinking changed at all as we've seen the Model Ys coming out a little earlier and faster than expected?
I, I'm not sure if it's been earlier and faster.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I think China's probably doing a little better than Europe and the US. There was a batch of Model Ys that made it out to Australia. I don't know if they made like 3,500 or 10,000 to send over to Australia and other places. But then the news came out recently, is like this past week, where they were talking about starting to make them.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. That was weird.
so it's strange where it felt like the lines went down the middle of January, but they've been continuing to sell the Model Y in China. Um, I'm just not sure how many they've really made between, when they talked about this changeover to when they're finally making them. Um, my concern is that the Model Y production, um, m- it seems like it's down at least 100,000 this quarter.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so that's a pretty substantial drop. And maybe down 150,000. And I don't think people are fully ready for that. So on the call, they talked about that the Model Y lines would be down for several weeks and that it's in all four factories that this is happening, but they didn't really spell it out, the impact.
Right.
And Wall Street didn't ask about it in the Q&A. So my concern is that because they didn't spell out the impact, it'll come as a surprise to a lot of investors, and this doesn't coincide with a great time where when people are really hating on Elon politically. Um, maybe things have changed on CNN, but for a long time it was they're spending 50% of their time talking about Trump and the other 50% of their time talking about Elon, as if like that's the only thing going on in the world.
They were hoping, didn't Trump say that they were hoping to regain their following, their audience, as they did in his first term, so that was the only thing that saved CNN from going out of business last time.
Yeah.
So, but it isn't working this time for some, it's not, they're not believing it this time. Well,
So
yeah.
so my concern is I think there's Tesla bulls who aren't aren't thrilled about DOGE, because maybe they didn't vote for Trump, or they just don't like Elon being scattered, his energy and effort scattered between all these companies and all this stuff. And so there's going to be likely a narrative that there's some kind of buyer's boycott about Tesla. People have been staging protests at Tesla service centers.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's a bit orchestrated and contrived.
Very.
Um, but there are people turning in their Teslas and getting a non-Tesla, and it's become a political issue. And yeah, I, I think the media, this decline in sales for Tesla of 100,000 or more, and that's our opinion.
Uh-huh.
Um, it it'll be a layup for the media to talk about it as like some kind of buyer's boycott.
Well, in fact,
Um,
they're already doing it, right? Especially for Europe.
yeah, and also, and they could say that, well, there's just more competition now in the EV space, and that's not true either. Like neither of these is true. They're working on the new Model Y, and it's going to be in much higher demand than ever before. Eventually, they'll lower the price from the launch edition. They'll bring back the normal editions. And I think the ceiling of the Model Y is going to be higher than ever before. I think it's going to be potentially 3 million vehicles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And ultimately this will be a bump in the road, but it could drive Tesla stock lower because ultimately it's a surprise to people who just haven't thought about, okay, what are the ramifications of this?
Right.
And then they'll get the wrong idea about why this is happening.
Now, if we look at AJ's theory, the problem with AJ's theory, which I'll give you the theory in a minute, is he thinks there'll be a positive surprise at the earnings call, but there's going to be 20 something days between the numbers on April 2nd
Hmm.
and the earnings call on April 20. I don't know what the day of the month it's going to be, but so there is a period of time there where the numbers can be all that anybody talks about until we get to earnings. Now, AJ feels that there's three things that could surprise, and I have a fourth thing that could surprise.
Hmm.
So,
Let's hear them.
all right. So AJ thinks that the average selling price will be much higher. I mean, like $4,000 to $5,000 per vehicle higher.
Hmm.
For one thing, you're going to have all of these Model Ys going out with the full on
Launch edition. Yeah.
launch edition. So they're going to be much higher priced. You're going to have a, a greater, probably a greater mix of Model Ys in that 5 week or 4 week time period when they're getting shipped out. So he believes that the margins, therefore, will also be much greater. And that while there be some costs associated with the ramp, that the margin bump will be much higher than the amount of the cost of the ramp. So those are the three things he thinks could impact first quarter in a positive way. Although he agrees, his last number is only 75,000 less units rather than 100 or 150. And then my fourth thing is that we have we've never had a quarter on energy yet, which was the full 14,000. I'm sorry, 14, yeah, 14 gigawatts. We've never had
Hmm.
a quarter yet. The highest was 12, right? I think the highest was
Right.
12. And last month was less. Our last quarter was less. Typically, in fact, it was 11 last quarter. So theoretically, we could have a quarter where it would be more than 14 because we've had quarters where we didn't get full deployment, which could mean inventory. It could mean all kinds of things. So we could have a higher quarter, not even counting Shanghai. And there's a possibility that Shanghai ships something in the first quarter. So we could have a pretty decent beat. And it is also an every other month thing so far on this kind of roller coaster. So first quarter could be a time when we actually get a surprise on the upside. So those are the four things. What do you think?
Yeah, so if you marry everything together, maybe it's sell the rumor before earnings and then buy the news after earnings. Yeah, it makes sense that because of the launch series, you're getting a lot more per Model Y, and that helps a lot because otherwise they're probably not making any money on the Model Y this quarter.
Yeah.
So with that higher price, I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, well, it includes 7,000, 8,000 of FSD, right? So
Mm,
that's huge. You know,
yeah.
no real cost to that 8,000. Yeah. All right. So first quarter, we all expect it to be less. I think that there's what is the street calling it? They're closer to AJ's number, right? They're around four something, 425, four.
Yeah, I haven't heard the latest, but
Okay.
my sense is that they're still like around 425 and haven't revised their numbers. And I'm guessing they'll get closer to Troy Teslaike's numbers, before the production and delivery report comes out. And eventually, they're going to talk more about, the drop this quarter.
Yeah. Okay.
We really haven't heard it spelled out by Wall Street.
All right. So the first quarter might be worse. It might be okay. It might be some combination of the above. What happens in the second quarter? We've got Shanghai starting to ship energy, megapacks. We've got increased numbers of power walls. We've got Model Y fully ramped. We've got Cybertruck continuing to ramp up, maybe lowering prices as maybe they finally give us a rear wheel drive version,
A
uh,
single motor, yeah.
single motor version. Anyway, what do you think is going to happen in the second quarter? What are you guys looking at right now as the second quarter?
Well, it's definitely going to be much better than the first. And
Okay. All
I'm
right.
guessing
Thank
I'm
you very
guessing
much.
the Y they might be able to sell a full quarter of the Y in launch edition.
Yeah.
So that would be like an amazing quarter.
Right.
And they'd be much closer, like 70% or higher on the Model Y production capacity.
Right.
Um, and then sometime during the second quarter, they're going to be launching new vehicles, potentially with an S,
Yes.
plural.
Yes.
So maybe it's a compact in China and a different compact in Europe, maybe a little slightly different. I don't see why we don't get a compact in the US. There's a lot of people who drive compact cars in the US.
Absolutely.
It's not just a bunch of deranged people like me that like bigger vehicles. Um, so you got a lot of things stacking up, and then on top of that, you have the robotaxi or cybercab starting in Austin,
Yep.
and that'll, for whatever reason, come as a surprise to people because even though Tesla's saying, "Hey, we're going to do this,"
Yeah.
when it actually happens, then people will start to give them credit for it.
Right. So second quarter should be a lot better. I know we talked about it last week, and that's only 7 days ago, but do you have any more color on the uh, California production of megapacks? You suggested that maybe they could do more than uh, uh,
More than 10 gigawatt hours per
yeah.
quarter. Yeah. Uh, I'm probably overdue for a stakeout, right?
Oh, there you go.
Maybe I can get away after spring break.
There you go.
I'll make a note.
All right. Nothing new on that then, huh? Okay. Are you still getting, so you talked a minute ago about all the political things. So let's call it, we've got DOGE. That's one political thing, which people could be upset that Elon's spending so much time. On the other side of the coin, people don't think about the fact he's also getting so much airtime. He's getting so much
Yeah.
visibility
Mhm.
Every time you see Elon, you are obviously going to be, oh, Tesla. I mean, you can't not think Tesla when you see Elon. So that kind of publicity you can't pay for. We could be running ads every day, a full range of ads across all the newspapers and television that you
Mhm.
could possibly think of, and it wouldn't compare to him standing next to the President of the United States at these meetings. Um, so, so you got a very big positive there, but other people think that maybe he's not spending enough time on Tesla because he's spending so much time on Doge. Then you've got the
Yeah, I
political.
think I agree with you. I believe it creates more positive than negative. And we're hearing about people in Europe giving up their Teslas, selling their Teslas. And what that makes me think about is um, before 2016, there are a lot of people who wouldn't say they would vote for Trump, but they ended up voting for Trump. Um, so I'm guessing there's people in Europe who um, are going to buy a Tesla and they're just not telling their friends and family they're going to buy one. Um, and the same thing especially in the US. Um, right now, I know there's a lot of people who don't like it, but Trump is the political center of Earth,
Right.
and all the world leaders are coming to him. Everybody wants his ear. They want to include him in like their PR releases, all this stuff. Um, and
You said
and
Trump. You
Elon's just
said
there, like he doesn't even have to compete for Trump's time.
right. Right. I'm sorry. Okay. Now I understand what you're trying to say. Got it. I was misunderstanding you there for a minute. Yeah. So he's there all the time. And of course, he might just because he's in the room, it makes it easy for him to have a conversation with the top leaders all over the world, including India.
Hmm.
So then all of a sudden we've got activity in India.
Hmm.
Because I mean, not because necessarily he could have always, I'm sure, gotten a meeting, but coincidentally, a few days after meeting with the head of the Indian government, he's got apparently a gigafactory going in India.
It seems like it. I kind of, even though they're only hiring for, is it Mumbai? Um, it's it seems like Tesla's heading toward a factory in India. Could be a mega factory, make mega packs there. Could be a gigafactory. With Tesla creating a compact car in Asia and Europe and maybe the US, it makes sense that maybe the one in Asia is made in India.
Yeah,
I know previously he said, well, we want it designed by Chinese engineers for the China market, but they could change their tune on that. I know Tesla wanted, and this was a number of years ago. This was probably 3 years ago. They wanted to build another factory in China and had disputes around land with the Shanghai or central government. They
yeah,
wanted to charge Tesla, I think it's an outrageous sum of money
yeah.
for, yeah, like $1 billion for 20 acres, or I forget what it was, but it's just insane.
Well, and some people have been knocking the India idea. I was really shocked. I've seen people say, well, India, they only sell 2 million cars or 4 million cars a year, something like that in the entire country. But India could be a hub for all of Southeast Asia. It could be a place that ships to Australia.
Mhm.
They could, if they were the ones who were shipping this particular kind of car, it could be shipped to all these different locations, even while China continues to ship to those same locations on the other vehicles. So it could be. I'm not terribly worried that they would find enough places to ship a new inexpensive car that they would build in India.
Mm. India probably needs more cars. I know there's certain areas of cities where traffic is insane and they probably don't want more cars, but as a population, it's underserved by cars. There have been other car makers that have gone into the market and have failed, but I don't think they had a compelling product. Ford tried their way in India, but um, it was probably not a car that you wanted to own. I'm trying to be
Yes, kind. Yes, kind.
yeah, I'm trying not to get this video demonetized here.
So, all right. So India's a real possibility. We'll see what happens there. Let's go back to the politics. So you had last week, you told me, and you did another video on it, I think even today, that a couple of your clients or a few of your clients have said, get me out of this stock. And a
Mhm.
lot of a lot of people are, concerned about the car sales being down. I've always felt like maybe at the worst it might be 5% of the liberals who might be disinclined to buy, who might otherwise have bought. And that 5% wouldn't be 5% for everybody, it'd be 5% of the liberals. So we might be talking about 2% of the population. And 2% matters, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Now, if 2% of the stock buying public decide they're not going to buy the stock, that also would have some impact. So, what do you think about that? Or do you think that Republicans who would have never thought about buying the stock 2 years ago might now be saying, "Well, this Elon Musk, pretty good guy. Let me get my checkbook out."
Yeah, I think there's going to be people that are because of Elon's Musk visibility and being entwined with Trump and DOGE, they're going to be introduced to Tesla. They're going to do a deep dive. They're going to come to similar conclusions that many of us have come to, and they'll buy the stock. It's potentially a big piece of the down move since the inauguration is people who don't agree with the politics were selling the stock. Um, that could be a big piece of the down move. I think as people just um, beginning to worry more about the quarter actually.
Hmm.
But there were a number of our clients they're diversified clients. They're not rebellionaires who are nearly 100% Tesla or whatever. They're diversified and they say, I don't want to look at Tesla in my portfolio. I can't own it for ethical reasons. Elon Musk is the worst person in the world. Um, Miserable person, all the stuff. And um, in some cases I'll try to talk them out of it. But um I I have to choose my battles.
Yes. Yes.
And I can talk to them later about it. So yeah, I'm not just a broker who lays down when a client presents a challenge to me. I will stand up to clients when I think it's the right time, and there have been people selling because of politics, and some people sold after the election. We had some clients who sold before the election, um, and that really hurt them because they sold Tesla around like
Yeah, right.
in the 200s.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. So
And those some of those conversations were less charged. So then when Matt and I talk with the clients, we put up more of a fight.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Now
so
now they have more energy, huh? So you have probably a fairly sophisticated client following.
and
What
these
are
are smart people. These might be
right,
scientists, they
right.
might be engineers or consultants, other things.
What are they saying about tariffs? Because you and I know, because we're really sophisticated, that tariffs not only are not inflationary, they can be deflationary, actually,
Mhm.
because they put more money in the treasury. which is what really is determining inflation or no inflation. They are potentially going to raise prices, which is a completely different thing. What do your clients, are they all upset about the tariffs and worried that the tariffs are going to reintroduce inflation because CNBC and CNN and everybody else are putting those headlines out? Or how are they looking at it?
There's some worry about just in general. Trump is he's unpredictable, and it seems like everything's up for negotiation. Maybe even after you've made a deal with them, it's still up for renegotiation. Um, so, the stock market in general doesn't like uncertainty.
Right.
And in general, I think Trump creates more uncertainty in some ways.
Definitely.
Whether it's ultimately better or not for us, the policies. And I've had no clients that have ordered me to sell all their stocks. So that hasn't happened. So they're not freaking out about that to that degree about Trump or
Right.
about tariffs.
Right. Okay, is it a subject that they bring up as a concern, or are they? I mean, is this something you have to walk them off the cliff about, or not that big a deal?
It's I'd say it's more about Trump. And
Okay.
so the other things I say about Trump is there's some positives. In general, small business owners tend to vote Republican, and small businesses make up a really big piece of our economy in the US. And when you have small business owners who are excited about the economy, they're more likely to invest in their business and hire.
Mhm.
So that's a positive generally for the economy. The other thing that Trump did in his first administration, and they have the policy set to do this again, is they've gotten rid of reduced regulations. And that was something that many business leaders pointed to during his first presidency as helping the economy.
Yeah.
Um, so, those are two positives, and he does bring more uncertainty. Um, the other thing, just more generally, is the economy is a bit stretched in general, and America is more unaffordable than ever for the middle class and working class. Our prices didn't go down. Inflation might have stopped, so like the increase in prices may have may have slowed down, but it didn't. The prices didn't outright drop.
Right.
Um, so there's a potential for a recession, but this is why for clients, we do trimming and adding. We make adjustments to manage the risk over time
Mhm.
that our clients have in their portfolios. So like when a stock shoots up, we look to trim back on it. When it's in the dumps, we dig in, see if something's wrong, and then we'll look to add.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are hard to do because it's like the opposite of what people
People
are
want to
tempted
do.
to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course. Yeah. I would say uncertainty is the one theme I've been talking about all week. And the uncertainty is that you've got the most active government I've ever seen. Not just
Mm.
not just in our country, but worldwide. Now, I don't study a lot of countries' economies, but there's so much
Well, I'd
activity.
say 𝐓𝐵𝐢𝐝𝐿𝐴 was a little more busy in Argentina,
He
but
might have been
we
as
haven't really seen it firsthand, right?
right, right. He might have been as busy or more busy, but he also had less. He had a little bit more of an iron fist. He didn't have as much pushback from the courts, etc. So
Mm.
he was able to move really super fast.
Yeah.
What happens is, even with Millet, is he did have a short-term recession among the lower classes, and there was a lot of write-up about that worldwide. And okay, but they weren't mad. That was the weird part. They were polling,
Mm.
And even though they were laid off or they didn't have as much money coming in, or, you know, they were like, no, keep going anyway. We know this is the right thing to do. And that
Mhm.
eventually it will work out. Either he did that through his charm and his ability to communicate
Yeah.
vision, but he got that across.
He also didn't get rid of the safety net, as I understand. So food assistance, I think they actually increased in Argentina, and they didn't get rid of um, you know, payments or
Right.
distributed income, but they did get rid of the middlemen. So
Right. Yeah.
strangely, Argentina had middlemen
Middleman. Yes.
that would collect like 50% of your benefit. Like if you want your benefit, you give me half of it, I'll give you the rest. Um, so they kept a safety net there. So I think that's um, maybe why the working class didn't fight it as much.
So the uncertainty, I think, is what's hurting the bonds. Why the bonds are still above 4.5. I would love to see them come down. I think they're waiting to see if one by one the courts are siding with DOGE. It's really amazing. Another one
Siding with
today.
Trump and DOGE, yeah.
Yeah, another one today said that the firings were okay. They could go through. So.
So what was that, the firings at USAID or what?
No, you know what? I should go back. Shouldn't say it because I
Okay.
don't remember. It was either the
Okay.
75,000 or it was when I say fire,
Okay.
it was either the 75,000 or it was the USAID type of dismissals. I
Hmm.
don't think the 200,000 that have only been working for less than 2 years, I don't think that's in question at all because they're probationary and they can be
Hmm.
let go anytime in the first 2 years without a without cause. Anyway, but I should look that up and be prepared for the next time that somebody asks the question.
Hmm.
Anyway, so you have this uncertainty that's going to take place for a minute. But as soon, I think, as they recognize that DOGE is for real, that the cuts are for real, that the courts are not going to get in the way, the Republicans are going to back them with the omnibus bill, et cetera. I think we could see the a rally in the 10-year that would be pretty crazy.
So a rally in the value of the bonds, a decrease in the interest
Decreasing.
rates.
Right.
Yeah. Um, I agree that's maybe what should happen. Counteracting that might be just investment. If people are investing aggressively in their businesses, et cetera, that could increase the demand for money and increase
Right.
interest rates.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think in general, um, it should lower rates. It should lower inflation.
Yeah. Yeah. I was interesting. I'm forgetting his name because I don't know. Scott, the Treasury guy, Scott Benning,
Besant.
Bissent. That's it. Scott Bissent. I loved his conversation. I don't know if you saw it the other day where he said, "Look, I'm a Treasury bond salesman."
Hmm.
Says, and I'm hoping that I can go out to the market with fewer to sell. So my goal is to have fewer in my hand when I go out to the market. And of course, that would lower interest rates if there is more money chasing fewer bonds. Well, okay. On that subject, we have institutional buyers, a bunch of home offices, a bunch of institutional buyers buying in the fourth quarter. Don't know, of course, about the first quarter yet, but that was a pretty strong signal. And a couple of the ones that we were able to determine what they bought in at, they bought in over 400.
Hmm.
That seemed to be a pretty cool statement that the stock fundamentally was worth $400. What do you think?
Yeah, I saw that, but I've also seen some early data that their purchases have cooled down this quarter. And that might be another reason why the stock is lagging a bit is the institutional buyers kind of got all that they wanted to. Um, One other thing is sometimes it might be where you have as an advisor, there's a certain threshold you have to report you have to suddenly go from not reporting your stock ownership to reporting it.
Mhm.
And I think last year might have been our first year where we had to report it.
Hmm.
Um, so like suddenly that looked like we that institutional buyers bought a bunch of like some of these smaller stocks where we just had to report it for the first time. Um, so it makes me wonder when I see some of that. I guess what I would want to know is like a little bit of a deeper dive on, okay, is it the big players buying more, or is it just
Mhm.
more institutions buying in?
Yeah, it was
Or
the ones that I saw was a little bit of both.
Mhm.
So some were adding to, and some were first timers. Um, all right. So the other thing on my list for today was Grok. I know that
Mhm.
you are a huge user of LLMs.
Yeah,
You still have it posted number one on your on
I
your
need to redo my pin post because it's that one's been up there for a while.
so you've now had 3 days to play around with Grok 3. I know I'm impressed, but I've talked about my impressions. What are you finding with Grok 3?
So we're actually bringing on people at my firm, so I haven't had as much time as I'd like. But I did try Grok with uh, what am what I feel is like a hard programming problem. So I gave it the code that I had and just asked it, okay, tell me what this code is doing and tell me about any issues you see with it. Um, so what I loved about its response is it gave me the best explanation. It even color coded the explanation, make it like really easy to read and like kind of actually enjoyable to read, which is like really weird. Like, why would I enjoy reading an explanation of a computer program? I'm not a programmer, so
Okay.
there's no reason I should enjoy that. It also identified the biggest issue in the program, which I didn't like pre-tell it what the problem
Right,
was,
right,
but I
right,
kind of know what the problem is.
right, right.
Um, and it identified it and proposed a solution. So I was really impressed by that. But for me to give definitive, I probably need to um, get busy again on a project and have it code multiple things. And I'd say the thing that I look for first from these LLMs with coding is I want it to work the first time.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you have when you're describing the problem to it, it takes like 20 minutes to an hour. It sounds ridiculous describing the problem, and then you hit enter. So it's like you're kind of like making all these incantations and all this stuff. You hit enter, and then it casts a spell, and the spell either works or it fizzles, or some mishap happens. But
Right.
um, the thing I would look at for next is if it works out of the box. And for me, Grok 2 didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm anxious to test that out. But I will be letting people know probably within about a week
Okay.
my thoughts on Grok 3.
So, of course, I've talked at length, not only at length, but often about how much I want to talk to my car.
Hmm.
I also want to talk to my phone. I want to be able to, have that actual conversation instead of writing it down, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know how many other people felt like I did. But all of a sudden, Sawyer Merritt and other people are like, I can't wait till we get the I can't wait till we get the voice in the car. So I don't know. Are you excited about being able to talk to your car?
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I do have a voice assistant. I pay for ChatGPT Pro. It's pretty expensive though. It's $200 a
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
So it's not limited. And I've used it for different things. And I'm gonna have it teach me some things on the ride home from after our conversation. Um, Yeah, I think it's valuable to be able to talk to your car, and it could share various information with you without you having to, take your eyes off the road. But it can just be like something that's fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm thinking kids are going to love it. You've got a few kids, right?
yeah,
Do you think your kids are going to like that? They're going to be impressed that they can talk to the car?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing Grok will be fun to talk
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might have to turn that meter down from the profane grok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not naughty Grok,
Not
right?
naughty grok. All right, listen, you have been following a number of companies. I know Lemonade is one of your favorites and whatnot, but you were mentioning to me in the green room that your pharmaceutical company that you've been following has uh, has had some pretty exciting news, and you wanted to share.
Yeah, so Candel Therapeutics, they have a drug that's effective against prostate cancer. They had a successful phase 3 trial. And this news came out like, well, I believe it was over a month ago, and it was well over a month ago. But what's interesting is Wall Street, excuse me, finally started to cover it. So like bigger banks, and they're initiating coverage of it. And so it was like diving down into like $6 a share, and suddenly like two Wall Street banks in a row covered it. So one gave a $20 a share price target, and then the next one gave 25, and um we own the company because we believe if it gets FDA approval, it'll be worth about 4 billion. But there's a long road, so there's a lot of risk. Um, the the it's very effective to prevent recurrence of prostate cancer, but they need to build out their production of the drug. They need to qualify it, make sure it's pure, but then they need to file with the FDA for approval. Um, and the FDA could take longer. They could maybe ask for more information or whatever. So there's some risks. Um, but right now, still, I think it's under like a $600 million valuation.
Yeah. So they could call Elon, pay him for an hour of his time, and they could probably get that factory up in about 3 months.
That's right.
Yeah,
Instead of taking 2 years, it could take 3 months.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
that
he.
was the cool thing with Grok 3. That announcement is we heard that he added another 100,000 NVIDIA supercomputers in under 3 months.
92 days.
Yeah.
92 days. How do you do that? Yeah, but it's pretty incredible. So okay, so you're still very high on this pharmaceutical and
Yeah. It's
but
it's possible that Wall Street stops talking about it
sure.
suddenly, and then it dips back down, and nobody talks about it for a long time.
Well,
But our intention is to own it until we hear back from the FDA, and we'll see what happens.
I thought you would own it until Pfizer buys it out. Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
It could happen like that too.
Yeah, that's right. That's the norm today, right? Pfizer just buys up all these little pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, it could be Pfizer, but there's actually haven't identified like who would be the most likely company to buy them out. It doesn't really matter to me, but
Yeah, right.
but this is not, investment advice. I
Right.
am a financial advisor, but we own it. We own a good chunk of the company. So let me fully disclose that.
Okay.
Um, and this, I don't know if it's going to be higher after the end of this quarter. Yeah, but we own 2% of the company.
Okay. All right. Okay. Is that you and your crowd of
My clients,
your
yeah.
clients? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, cool. Cool. That'll be exciting to watch, and we'll see how all that plays out over time. My personal opinion is that Tesla will trade in a fairly flat range for Tesla until there's significant news. So a foray into India wasn't significant enough. Uh, I think we're going to
I
need
gotta
something.
roll my eyes at that, right?
I know. So we're going to need a bigger news in order to move the ticker. That's my theory. Or do you think that we can start moving back up towards that 480 uh, all-time high prior to major news?
Uh, technic like if you look at the charts, I'm not a big chartist, but I do talk to some. Like it doesn't look that great for Tesla. Basically, it's formed as head and shoulders. So like when it kind of leveled off around 240 before the spike up to like 400, and then there's the head, and now we're back at the mid 340s, 350s. So that's the shoulders. So like, potentially it's a move down from here. The chart doesn't look that great for Tesla. So I'm not sure it hangs in here, but yeah, I think I'd agree with you that it would be major news likely to push it further,
Yeah. So probably.
unless some people just kind of lose patience with it.
Yeah, yeah. So probably either the new more affordable car, or we have to wait till June for the actual launch in Austin. Oh, I suppose
Well,
announcing that you could drive your car unsupervised and do it.
well, let's just go back to kind of where you started your optimism about Teslas. I think it could just sell down to earnings, sell the rumor, and then it may just rally right after earnings.
There you go.
That could potentially, once all the bad news is out there and um, everybody gets everybody who's got paper hands or whatever gets shaken out, it could just shoot up after that. But yeah, I agree with you. It seems like there's going to be a lot of good news in the second quarter.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire, who is all excited about his pharmaceutical stock right now. Thank you, as always, for coming on and helping us try to get into the nitty-gritty of all these things that are happening. And everybody should follow you on Rebellionaire. They should check out your videos during the week when you're not on my channel. And yeah, all that's good.
And on X, I am Brad S. Ferguson.
Yes.
And with that, let's get right to the numbers.
Let's get right to the numbers. All right. Thanks, Brad. All right. So what about those numbers? Let's go ahead and we'll take a look here. Of course, Tesla ended down $6.16 for the day. We are sitting at another $1.60 off in the after hours. But it was down 14 at one point, so it came all the way back. Even if you count the after hours, we're only half as bad as the day started out. But we're sitting at 352.80. As Bradford just mentioned, there is kind of some technical issues here that it needs to succeed. One of those big ones that needs to get above 365. I don't know anything about the technicals. I'm just telling you what other people say. We have to get above 365 and stay there in order to break out of this pattern. That's the technical side of it. Of course, the fundamental side, we just talked about that in terms of needing some news that is significant, not just these little tiny things. All right, so what about the rest of the market? Dow was down 450, NASDAQ was down 93, S&P down 26, Magnificent Seven, except for Apple. Oh, no, actually, three of the seven, Microsoft and NVIDIA, were also up a little bit today. So overall, it was kind of mixed for the Magnificent Seven, and Cathie Woods were all down, except for Square. All right, so let's see here. Let's go and look into what is going on now at this very moment. Let's start with the bonds. Bonds are back up a little bit in the after hours at 4.511. That's up 1.2 basis points. So you know me, we needed to break below that 4.5. It was kind of heading that way, but it couldn't hold. So that's not good. Well, in my opinion, it's not good. Oil is flat unchanged. Isn't that interesting? 72.57. That's another one that really needs to go down. Um, we've got natural gas up a little bit again after it looked like it might plunge below $4. Is sitting at 4.17, up a little in the pre-market. We have got gold cooling off a little bit, but at 2,950, almost 954.80. So it has stopped its relentless march towards 3,000, which it got rejected last time. We'll see if it picks up again tomorrow and into next week. Silver is down a little bit also at 33.37. So similarly, we're looking for it to break through 34. Copper down 0.3 at $4.60. You got the dollar stumbling a little bit on tariff fatigue, says the headline. Bitcoin up 1,995 for the day so far at 98,290. So it seems like it's finally breaking out of its being range bound in the 95 area there for a week or more. And here we go with the futures for tomorrow. Pretty flat, about as flat as you can get. Let's call the Dow and S&P both unchanged. NASDAQ futures up 0.06%. That is 0.0, it just changed, 0.05%. It's getting ever closer to also being unchanged. So very flat right now. I think maybe tomorrow things will change, but I think there's just not enough right now for the market to really go in any particular direction. As Bradford just said, all of the equity markets are stretched. They're all near their all-time highs. And there's uncertainty out there, uncertainty about how all these Trump initiatives will actually play out when they are finally done and said. I think everything that I'm seeing should be good for the economy long term. I don't have any question about where the economy is going to be next year, but we could go through a rough month or quarter or 2 quarters. You've heard me say that before. I still think that way. How's that? All right. I think that's enough for now. Later on tonight, you're going to have what do we have tonight? Oh, yeah, the Cern Basher. Oh, yeah, we had a good one. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Cybertruck. We're going to be talking about, I forget, but it was all really good. No, it's seriously outstanding as always. You know, Cern, he does a great job. So that'll be on at 7:45. You can set your clock by it. That's when it'll be on. And then, of course, regular programming tomorrow. All right, that's all I got for you right now. It's been great talking to you.